50 Cent, his one-time friend turned relentless adversary, had just dropped a bombshell that no one saw coming. 20 years of secret recordings, meticulously collected, exposing Diddy's alleged web of manipulation, threats, and abuse of power. These weren't tabloid rumors or social media gossip. These were raw, chilling audio tapes played for the first time in court that painted a portrait of a man whose empire was built on control and secrecy. As the first tape crackled through the courtroom speakers, Diddy's voice, cold and commanding, saying, "Nobody leaves until I give the signal." The room froze, hearts pounding, knowing this was the moment that could shatter a legacy. What dark truths had 50 Cent been hiding for 2 decades? And how much more could Diddy withstand before his carefully crafted world collapsed for good? The trial had started like any other high-profile case, with the usual buzz of reporters scribbling notes, attorneys whispering strategies, and Diddy's family seated in the gallery, projecting quiet support. Diddy himself sat at the defense table, impeccably dressed, his demeanor calm and composed despite the weight of the charges against him: sex trafficking, racketeering, and a litany of allegations that had already tarnished his name. He'd faced scrutiny before, weathering storms of lawsuits and rumors with the polished ease of a man who'd built Bad Boy Records into a cultural juggernaut. But this day was different. The atmosphere shifted the moment 50 Cent, unannounced, strode into the courtroom, his jaw set, his eyes burning with purpose. A pin could have dropped and echoed. To some, it seemed like a publicity stunt, a calculated move by a rival known for his brash persona and decades-long feud with Diddy. But as 50 Cent took the witness stand, avoiding Diddy's gaze, it was clear this was no game. "I'm here to tell it like it is," he said, his voice steady, cutting through the room like a blade. Diddy, who'd been murmuring with his legal team, froze, his pen slipping from his hand, his face paling as if he'd seen a ghost. The judge raised an eyebrow, sensing the shift. What 50 Cent revealed next would change the trial's trajectory and the music industry forever. 50 Cent leaned into the microphone, his words deliberate, each one landing like a hammer. "I've been holding on to recordings since 2003, he said. Not rumors, not speculation, hard evidence. A low murmur rippled through the courtroom, quickly silenced by the judge's gavel. Diddy's lead attorney shot to his feet, objecting that 50 Cent wasn't scheduled to testify and questioning the relevance of this evidence. The prosecutor, unfazed, laid out the bombshell. Hundreds of hours of audio, verified by 3 independent specialists, directly supporting the allegations of sex trafficking and racketeering. The recordings, they argued, weren't just gossip. They were a window into a pattern of control, coercion, and abuse spanning 2 decades. Diddy's lawyer tried to counter, citing privacy violations, but the judge, after a tense sidebar, allowed the tapes to be played, provided they directly tied to the charges. As the prosecutor set up a laptop and hard drives, the courtroom's air conditioner hummed, a stark contrast to the stifling anticipation. Jurors sat forward, pens poised. Reporters clutched their notebooks. Diddy's family exchanged anxious glances, their earlier confidence fraying at the edges. The first tape, dated August 2003, crackled to life, and Diddy's voice filled the room, unmistakable despite the faint background music of a crowded party. "Nobody leaves until I give the signal," he said, his tone icy, authoritative. A woman's voice, trembling, responded, "Please, I just want to go home." Diddy's reply was chilling. "You'll go when I'm done with you. That's how this works." 50 Cent, still on the stand, provided context. The recording came from an after-party following the MTV Video Music Awards, held at a sprawling Hamptons estate. He'd been invited through industry contacts, a young artist eager to network at one of Diddy's legendary parties. But what he found wasn't the glamorous scene he'd expected. The mansion was a fortress. High hedges, iron gates, security guards checking names against a list. Hidden cameras, disguised as decor, watched every move. It wasn't about safety, 50 Cent said. It was about control, making sure nobody could talk about what happened inside. The jurors' faces tightened, some scribbling furiously, others staring at Diddy, who sat motionless, his hands clenched. As the tape ended, 50 Cent recounted his first impressions of that night. He'd been new to the industry, still rebuilding after surviving a near-fatal shooting. Diddy, already a titan, approached him with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I decide who stays and who goes in this game," Diddy had said, his words less an offer than a warning. 50 Cent felt the weight of it, a power dynamic that left no room for defiance. "I knew then I couldn't play his game," he told the court, "but I also couldn't challenge him outright. He had too much influence." So he started recording, first with small voice recorders, then with more sophisticated gear as technology evolved. "It was for my own protection," he said. "If something happened to me, there'd be proof." The prosecutor asked if he'd obtained consent for the recordings. 50 Cent nodded. "New York's a one-party consent state. I was that party. And these weren't private talks. They happened in public spaces, at parties with dozens of witnesses." The next tape, from 2007, was even more damning. Diddy's voice, clearer now, boomed through the courtroom. "I own everybody in this room. I can make you or break you with a snap of my fingers." 50 Cent identified background voices, prominent artists signed to Bad Boy Records, their names withheld to protect their privacy. The recording captured a studio session gone wrong, where Diddy, enraged by a challenge to his creative control, lashed out with threats. He wasn't just talking about music, 50 Cent explained. He was talking about lives, careers, everything. If you crossed him, you were done. The jurors' eyes widened, some exchanging glances. Diddy's attorney objected again, arguing the tapes were out of context, but the judge overruled, allowing the prosecution to continue. The courtroom felt smaller with each tape, the walls closing in on Diddy as his empire's dark underbelly came into focus. By the time a 2012 recording played, the pattern was undeniable. Diddy's voice, smooth but menacing, discussed an upcoming freak-off party. Collect all the phones, stock up on the usual, double it this time. A second voice asked about special guests, and Diddy's response was chilling. They sign NDAs or they don't get in, no choice if they want to keep working. 50 Cent described the scene. A private event at one of Diddy's estates where guests were vetted, monitored, and pressured to comply. It wasn't a party, he said. It was a machine. Everyone there knew the rules and nobody dared break them. The jurors' faces grew grim, some visibly uncomfortable as the tapes painted a picture of systematic control. Diddy, once the picture of composure, was unraveling. Sweat beading on his forehead, his tie loosened, his hands fidgeting with a glass of water. The most devastating tape came from 2016. Just weeks before the infamous hotel corridor incident involving Cassie Ventura. Diddy's voice was low, almost conspiratorial. She's getting too independent, thinking she can make her own choices. A man asked, "What are you gonna do?" Diddy's reply was cold. "I'll remind her who's in charge. She'll never leave me. I've got too much on her." The courtroom fell silent, the weight of the words sinking in. 50 Cent explained he'd recorded this at a private dinner, using a hidden device in his watch. Cassie wasn't there, but he was talking about her like she was property, he said. "I knew something bad was coming, but I didn't know how to stop it." The prosecutor asked if he'd tried to warn Cassie. 50 Cent's face tightened. "I tried through mutual contacts, but Diddy had her locked down. Nobody could get to her, and I was scared of what he'd do if he found out I was helping her." As tape after tape played, a chilling narrative emerged. 2 decades of manipulation, threats, and power plays, all documented in Diddy's own words. The recordings corroborated earlier witness testimonies, giving voice to victims who'd been silenced by fear or NDAs. Jurors took feverish notes, their expressions a mix of shock and disgust. Diddy's family, once stoic, now looked shaken, their eyes darting between the witness stand and the defense table. Diddy himself seemed to shrink, his once commanding presence reduced to a man staring down the barrel of his own legacy. Halfway through the tapes, he began coughing, his face flushing red. His attorney requested a recess, citing his client's health, but before the judge could respond, Diddy stood, staggered, and collapsed back into his chair. Chaos erupted. Court officers rushed to his side, reporters scrambled for their phones, and the judge called for medical assistance. The bailiff cleared the room as paramedics arrived, leaving 50 Cent on the stand, staring coldly at the man who'd once loomed so large. The next day, Diddy returned, pale but cleared to continue by medical staff who attributed his collapse to severe stress and dehydration. His legal team's motion to postpone was denied, and 50 Cent resumed his testimony, his voice unwavering. He described another incident from 2009, when he'd followed Diddy into a private area of a club, expecting a business discussion. Instead, he found a scene that haunted him. Young women, some visibly terrified, others dazed, as Diddy orchestrated the night like a director on a set. "It wasn't a party," 50 Cent said. "It was a trap. Once you were in, you couldn't just leave." Days later, he received a cryptic call. "I know you saw. Keep your mouth shut and you'll stay relevant." A package arrived soon after, an unlabeled USB drive containing footage of that night, with 50 Cent visible in the background. Diddy's voice on the video was unmistakable. "I've got something on everyone here. That's how a family works." 50 Cent's voice cracked as he admitted, "That's when I knew I wasn't invited. I was initiated." For years, 50 Cent had documented Diddy's world, not out of malice but survival. "It wasn't just about me anymore," he said. "I saw people, artists, staff, women who couldn't speak up. I wanted proof for them too." The prosecution played more tapes spanning 2003 to 2020, each revealing another layer of Diddy's alleged control. A 2014 recording captured him saying, "Money's not enough, it runs out. Fame's not enough, it fades. Power is controlling the people around you. That's real." 50 Cent explained how Diddy used charisma, gifts, and subtle threats to keep his circle loyal. "He'd give you a Rolex, a trip to Miami, make you feel like family," he said. Then he'd mention someone who crossed him, how they lost everything. The message was clear, this could be you. The tapes also revealed discussions about silencing witnesses, erasing evidence, and coordinating cover stories to protect Diddy's image. Jurors grew visibly disturbed, some shaking their heads as the evidence mounted. Diddy sat stone-faced, occasionally whispering to his lawyers who scrambled to object but found little traction. 50 Cent's testimony turned personal as he explained his long silence. "I was building my own empire. Music, TV, businesses worth hundreds of millions," he said. "But every step I felt his shadow. If I spoke out without proof, I'd be done. Blacklisted, smeared, maybe worse." He described how, after declining Diddy's invitations, his music vanished from radio playlists. Collaborators ghosted him, and rumors painted him as paranoid or jealous. "It wasn't random," he said. "It was Diddy sending a message, stay quiet or pay." The turning point, 50 Cent said, was the 2016 hotel footage of Diddy assaulting Cassie. "When I saw that video, I knew it wasn't just one incident. It was a pattern," he told the court. "I'd been collecting evidence for years, but that was when I knew I had to act." He turned over his recordings to federal agents 3 months before the trial, hoping to validate the claims of Cassie and others. As he spoke, he looked at the jurors, his voice steady but urgent. This wasn't about revenge, it was about the truth. Diddy didn't just ruin careers, he made people afraid to speak. That was his real power. The courtroom was silent, the weight of his words settling over everyone. Even Diddy's attorneys seemed subdued, their objections quieter now, as if sensing the tide had turned. As the testimony wrapped, the prosecution played one final tape, a 2020 recording of Diddy discussing a potential whistleblower. "If they talk, they're done," he said. "I've got enough to bury anyone who tries me." The jurors' faces were grim, some visibly shaken. 50 Cent stepped down from the stand, his gaze lingering on Diddy, who refused to meet his eyes. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, reporters already typing frantic updates. Diddy's collapse the day before loomed large, a symbol of a man whose empire was cracking under the weight of his own secrets. But the trial wasn't over. More witnesses were set to testify, and the prosecution hinted at additional evidence that could seal Diddy's fate. As the judge adjourned for the day, the question hung in the air. Could Diddy, the man who'd once controlled an industry, survive the unraveling of his legacy? Or had 50 Cent's revelations finally exposed a truth too big to bury? The fallout was immediate. Outside the courthouse, fans and critics clashed, some defending Diddy's contributions to music, others demanding accountability. Social media exploded with hashtags, memes, and clips of the tapes leaked by enterprising reporters. 50 Cent, stoic as ever, declined interviews, letting his testimony speak for itself. But the story was far from finished. The tapes had cracked open a door to Diddy's world, revealing a system of power and fear that stretched far beyond one man. Who else had been silenced? What other secrets lay hidden? And most importantly, would justice prevail, or would Diddy's influence find a way to rewrite the narrative once more? For now, the world watched, waited, and wondered if this was the end of an era, or just the beginning of a reckoning.